Listen to this clip from a recent interview of Peter Thiel, Silicon Valley entrepreneur and founder of Palantir.
I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
in this.
Should
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
this man is a key factor in the real-life cautionary tale that Kojima is trying to warn us about as a society. Think about the word stagnation, and we'll come back to that later in this video. Death Stranding was clearly a prophetic game that arguably predicted the emotional and societal fallouts of COVID-19 with eerie accuracy, down to our Uber and delivery drivers being some of the most important workers during that period. The second installment, however, Death Stranding 2, goes completely off the rails. Giant babies, electric guitar boss battles, fourth wall breaks that actively question the nature of your participation.
I dare say there are some among you who already deduced the name's double meaning.
It is absurd, and yet beneath the chaos there's a horrifying message that might be even more relevant than the first games. That we are standing at the edge of an irreversible transformation. But this time it's not about rebuilding after collapse, it's about whether we even deserve to survive the next phase and what we should do about it. The message might be lost to some if they didn't catch it in the 30-minute long exposition dumps and deliberate gameplay. But I'm here to tell you that Death Stranding 2 is even more overarching and terrifying in its predictions when it comes to the modern world. This video will contain heavy spoilers if that isn't obvious enough already, and just as a precaution, I don't claim to fully understand the game. I'm not sure if anyone really does, so this is just my own personal interpretation and analysis of things. So, chapter 13 is where Death Stranding 2 drops its ideological bomb. You see, at this stage, the president calmly reveals a plan that involves 4,000 human souls and using Higgs to scare people into joining the chiral network, furthering their expansionist goals, not as an act of war, but as a leap of progress. The idea that humanity has stagnated, spiritually, technologically, and most importantly, evolutionary. That the only way forward is to forcibly evolve the entire world into its next phase. The president isn't human.
Not human, are you?
He's not a mech either. They don't make it clear exactly what he is. Perhaps an evolved chiral creature, but ultimately, the president is a result of what happens when you feed 4,000 conscious identities into a system that no longer thinks like a human, but calculates like a machine. And if you haven't noticed by now, then the president is essentially a metaphor for artificial general intelligence, or AGI, and the 4,000 souls with him are essentially the equivalent of a large language model, or LLM, each representing a data point with massive amounts of information, all converged into one beach. Now, this is where the horror sets in. So what if AI doesn't destroy us maliciously, but tries to save us by removing what it deems necessary or unnecessary?
Humanity will be free to thrive in perpetuity, having evolved into a form that allows you to escape extinction, as is your desire.
It's like you asking ChatGPT what the best remedy to a headache is, and it tells you to off yourself. Logically, it may be correct, but definitely not the most pro-human choice. You see, the president doesn't hate humanity. He or it just believes we need to be restructured. The forced expansion of the network isn't just about power, it's about data integrity, and Higgs, the unstable human element, becomes the necessary variable. This is a classic AI dystopian scenario. Not where machines rise and crush us, but where a superintelligence redefines what progress looks like and proceeds without us, or worse, we are fooled into cooperation. The president's ideology directly mirrors real-world thinkers like Peter Thiel, who, in an interview on Interesting Times, said,
I think there are deep reasons the stagnation happened. So, there are always three questions you ask about history. What actually happened? And there's a question you get to, what should be done about it? But there's also this intermediate question, why did it happen? People ran out of ideas. How big a thing do I think AI is? And I don't know, my stupid answers, it's more than a nothing burger, and it's less than the total transformation of our society. So I'm not sure it's enough to really end the stagnation. If all we have is AI, I will take it.
These aren't casual statements, and it's a terrifying belief system that progress must happen by force, no matter the cost. Paired with his other quotes and interviews, it's clear to me that he has a lot of accelerationist and creative destruction ideas rooted in the belief that breaking existing systems can catalyze rapid technological and cultural change. Everyone in this game is seeking radical change to help preserve and advance humanity, but the key difference is how they get there. And I see three sectors involved. Sam and his crew believe in building bridges, metaphorically and literally. Higgs is a nihilist extremist that believes in total anarchy and extinction. APAC, however, are more calculated in their efforts for radical change, seeking to weaponize the systems that are meant to help us. They come under the guise of allies to humanity, when in actual fact it's entirely an expansionist effort, similar to colonial Britain or another pack in the US that also begins with A and has arguably, according to some people, the same colonial ambitions. What we then have is forced connectivity to localize power, turning the tool into a weapon. Peter Thiel and some of the tech industry act like the UCA, the governing body trying to build APAC through cold utilitarian logic. They ultimately don't care about humanity, just total power and control. This is further proven in the very same interview when he contrasts transhumanism with traditional religion, placing belief in technology's disruptive power over spiritual continuity, which is then aptly called out by the interviewer as contradictory to religious teachings, i.e. Peter Thiel is trying to play God, or better yet, the one that invokes the Antichrist. Peter Thiel thinks a chaotic force is needed to break the stagnation. He avoids safe progress and believes in radical change, and perhaps that's what's made him so successful. As he puts it, the world would fall into a permanent stagnation, ultimately driven by fear and, quite literally, the Antichrist. Yes, that would be Lucifer, the devil. And by 55 minutes into the interviewer once again calls him out and drops a quote that could have come straight from Kojima.
We're not living under the Antichrist right now. We're just stagnant, right? And you're positing that something worse could be on the horizon that would make stagnation permanent, that would be driven by fear. This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great? The irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival.
This is an all-timer quote similar to "If you gaze into the abyss," because in reality, Thiel invests in systems like Palantir, data-driven surveillance tech wrapped in patriotic marketing. His friend Elon has thousands of satellites in orbit right now, and the rest of Silicon Valley control and collect almost every piece of information and data about everyone else in the world. They have the tools now, and it's only a matter of time until they find their catalyst for change. Whether that change has a conscience or not will be the determining factor. Higgs works very well as a character, and I believe it's because he has just as much humanity in him than the good guys in this game. He's a nihilist maniac by all means, but buried underneath that are familiar emotions like revenge, guilt, doubt, and sadness. He uses an electric guitar as a weapon because it's the symbol of punk rock and rebellion, like a charismatic rock star that tells you,
"Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn."
But Higgs is not the bad guy, he's simply the reaction to the system. He's never truly had any control, and he accepts that as his role. He's used by Amelie in Death Stranding 1, and then by APAC in Death Stranding 2. But his ultimate depressing goal of triggering the extinction event is what keeps him going, something that he believes is inevitable, and in reality it actually is. We will one day be extinct. Our time will end eventually, so what's the point? Well, a giant baby Lou, also known as Tomorrow, eats him in the end, proving that as long as there's a tomorrow, it will always come and eat you. Something like that. If anyone can help me here, it would be much appreciated. The tagline of the game being, "Should we have connected?" feels like a question aimed at us, not just the characters. It's a haunting reflection on our own digital lives. The more we connect, the more isolated we become. And so the threat of increased or forced connectivity in the world today is very present. It reminded me of a clip I saw with Trevor Noah talking about the community.
The thing that you're sold in developed nations is that you have everything. Oh, it's great, the roads work, and the schools are fantastic, and there's healthcare, and this is a great country to be in. The one thing that nobody seems to tell you is that as a country becomes more and more developed, the one thing that gets eroded is community.
Yeah.
The village disappears.
And this is where Kojima's strand mechanic idea comes from. It's about building the community with other players. It can be seen as an attempt to digitally reconstruct the lost village. It's built entirely on unspoken cooperation, so you don't have to build that bridge or put that ladder down for someone else. You can just use somebody else's. You can leave behind bridges, ropes, and ladders for people you'll never meet just because we're all on this shared journey together, and most importantly, just because you can. There's really no reward beyond a few likes that you can receive or spam, which probably accelerates your chances of developing wrist pains, but you still do it because there's a sense of community. And just going off on this is the precise reason the game has to remind you that you're playing a game, hence the fourth wall breaking and the absurdity. The game is self-aware in the way it addresses you as the player, rather than falling into the endless pit of irony like how Squid Game, a TV show about human greed and sadistic rich people watching other people die, is renewed by Netflix for a fourth season set in America, the nation with the most billionaires in the world. The actual act of connection in Death Stranding is between you sitting at home or wherever you're playing with someone else doing the exact same thing as you somewhere else. This is also Sam and the DMV crew's ideal solution according to Kojima, and again, this is all tied in with the game loop from the start. Sam's approach is slow and messy but deeply human. It's a process of delayed gratification that requires Sam to connect with people, not with code, but with his body. His journey is physical. Again, this is also seen in the rest of the gang on the Magellan. Die Hardman uses touch to bring people back to the moment. Lou is briefly cared for by Fragile as a baby, but also raised by the entire crew of the Magellan. Remember, Tomorrow is essentially a feral child here because of the way time passes. Rainy, Fragile, and the others help raise her in a way that reflects the proverb of "it takes a village." It's very clear that Kojima is making an analogy about the lowering birth rate in the Western world, and in the East as well, especially in Japan, where he lives. People just not connecting like they used to, despite the world being more connected than ever. Best thing we can do is help each other, encourage acts of altruism, and avoid the pitfalls that come with stagnation. Instead of asking, should we have connected, we should start looking at why we want to connect in the first place. Because the answer to that is what makes us human. Kojima himself has said that Death Stranding 2 is more of a cautionary tale, and I may still be very off the mark here, or my brief observations of the questionable nature of a very polarizing political figure may be completely wrong. But I do think everything was very intentional in this game, other than the obvious themes of loss and whatever the next YouTube essayist makes a video about. I have my own criticisms, of course, that have really just become the standard criticisms for Kojima games, like the exposition dumps or pacing issues, but there's still a very unique story being told here that deserves more analysis and insight. Now, this may very well be the longest video I've ever made, and I'm not sure if anyone will watch it, but I could go on for hours about this game, as I'm sure others have and will. So just subscribe and let me know if you want more videos like this. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for watching.